What's the haps? I'm Meroka, and today we're going to be finding out what's new in our Wizard's Lizard Immortal Edition by Lost Decade Games. So Wizard's Lizard is a game I took a look at back in January, and the game has just launched on Steam, and clearly in the last 6 months it has been overhauled and updated and things, and it is now being branded in the marketing materials I was sent as Immortal Edition. Although that doesn't seem to be anywhere on the Steam page, or indeed in the game itself. They never refer to it as Immortal Edition, which seems a little odd. It seems like something they could be pushing. At the bottom of the screen you'll see it says version 2.0, so it's definitely a dramatic enough change to the game that they would call it an entirely new version of the game. But yeah, let's take a look and see what has changed in the Immortal Edition. In the settings menu, several of the things I objected to previously have been addressed, which is always nice to see. Music and sound are now on separate sliders. You can turn them up and down at your leisure. Previously you could just turn them on or off. That was as good as you got. So now they're on sliders, that's cool. Darkness, that's kind of a really weird one. Normally you'd think of a sort of a brightness slider. We have a darkness slider here. It will make more sense when we get into the game and I can show you it, but previously I objected to the game being too dark, so now you can turn down the darkness. Which is a weird way to think about doing it, but I promise you it does make sense in this context. So, the full screen option is just full screen option, is same as it ever was. Unfortunately, it runs in a 960 by 640 window, and when you click full screen, it just stretches it to fill the screen. That has not changed. I would still like to see some resolution options. That would be a nice thing to see, but it's not happening. They don't seem to be planning to give us that anytime soon, clearly. So let's head on into the game. Let's have a look at things. We have a character select screen. I don't recall there being one of these before. I haven't unlocked any other characters, so I don't know what they do and how they differ. That one looks almost werewolfy. But all I have is the Wizard's Lizard of the title, whose name is Raga, and he's adorable. So he's going to head in. So this, just to bring you up to speed, this is a roguelike or roguelite, whatever you fancy calling them these days. Very much in the style of... well, not necessarily in the style of, but in the certainly in terms of gameplay, in the style of Binding of Isaac. So I can move around and shoot things and kill things by shooting things. And we've got, as you can see on the map, we've got this grid-shaped map. So we're going to be navigating a bunch of grid-shaped rooms. Enemies and things are going to be generated randomly in each room, and we will progress our way through to rescue our master from the clutches of death itself. So we get a little bit of starting money here, which in this case is 2,000. You begin with 500 and you get an extra 500 for each person you rescue from out of the dungeons. And for some reason you do seem to be able to recover the same person several times, for whatever reason. And then we can take that money that they have given us, and we can spend it on things in the store at the start. I think to begin with you get the weapons, and then the other stuff you get by picking up blueprints in the dungeons. So I have no idea what an abacus does. We also have a helmet, a leather helmet, probably a shamanic helmet, I think that one might be, and a lantern which is going to allow us to see things, but although that's a little bit redundant, as I will show you when we get into there. We have an axe which bounces off walls, we have a spear which has a long range and a fast fire time, or I can shoot 2 daggers at once there instead of my standard 1. I can pick up that for 2. I kind of like the spear, so I'm going to go with that. It shoots fast and far, which is nice, because you can hit things from miles away. So let us head on into the dungeon, which is over this way. So, defeats death! Shall do. Let's go into the graveyard, which is the first level. So, cemetery level 1. I don't recall the levels being divided into parts before, but they do seem to be now. They're now 3 parts to each level, and each level's kind of shorter than previously. Previously it was 1 long level, and at the end of it, you fought a boss and then moved on to the next area. Now it just seems to be 3 short levels tied together, and the boss at the end of it. So we can pick up a bunch of resources. Most of the starting rooms just seem to be money, so I won't object to those. And I can show you some of the darkness here. How about we do that? So let's go into settings. Got the darkness slider. 100% is what it used to look like. We have lanterns in the corner which light things up. There's a tiny bit of light around me. If I pick up a lantern, that's going to improve. Enemies and treasure tend to give off a bit of a glow, but broadly speaking, a lot of it is dark, and you can't see what you're doing, and that's really annoying. Guess what? We can turn it down. We can turn it off if you want. You can turn off the darkness. So it looks like that, which is kind of cheating, but you can do it if you want. I've been leaving it about 70, which kind of keeps some of the atmosphere, but doesn't, you know, destroy the effect in its entirety. So let's head on in and see what we can find. Oh, right, we're straight at the vendor. That's okay. And there's a spear for more money than I originally paid for it. So that's nice. That's interesting to note that the shop that you start with actually charges you half the price it would charge you in the dungeon itself. A pair of gloves, shaman gloves. We go to the inventory. I now have those. Increases totem radius. Totem is a new weapon to this. If you look at the top of the screen, we have a weapon, a dash, a orb with a skull on it, and a totem. So we've got a bunch of different things at our disposal. Previously, we just had the weapon. So let's go find some enemies to test things on. Zombies, they'll do. If I press X on the pad, I can throw down this totem, and that's going to shoot a couple of shots. And honestly, I don't particularly rate them, but it does that. So it fires a couple of shots, and you can upgrade it. Obviously, I've got the shaman gloves, which upgrade it slightly now. And they're going to fire a couple of things, and if they hit things, it will damage them. Let's have the orbs. The orbs are nice, so let's let them shoot their shovels and then do that. Yeah, the orbs do that. They destroy almost anything that's in its path, and they're pretty powerful. But they do have a short range, so you just gather a bunch of enemies together, like I did, used an orb, and it wipes everything out, which is kind of cool. Although these are zombies, they're really, you know, not terribly challenging. I could have quite comfortably just wiped them out by shooting them, but it's a quick way to do it. So you have other tools at your disposal. We also have a dash, which, as far as I can make out, only works in a straight line along one of the cardinal directions. If you try and use it diagonally, it won't work. If you steer even slightly to the side from left, right, up or down, it just won't work. It's just not a thing that happens. I'm losing some frame rate due to these zombies. There's a lot of zombies here. It's causing problems. Let's kill them. Wow. That frame rate dropped to about 10 there. So, performance issues when a lot of things are going on, clearly. The more stuff there is on the screen, the worse it's going to get. Seems a little odd, given that it's just a lot of the same sprites. You would have thought that would have had a big impact on performance, but apparently it does. So there we go. Lots of money from them though, so maybe it's all worthwhile in the end. So we got those 4 main abilities, and as we've seen with the gear, we got shaman gloves, which were previously, I think, just leather gloves, which just gave you a little bit of defense. So the items are generally a lot more diverse than they used to be. So where things were just straight up defense and you just increased the defense before, now there's a lot of different things that the items can do. There's basically the shaman gear, which improves the abilities of your totems. I think there's warlock gear, which improves the abilities of the soul orb. You can get stuff that just increases your defense. You can get stuff that just increases your attack. And then stuff like boss loot is often even more exotic stuff that'll do all sorts of crazy stuff. Stuff I've had from the first boss basically like increases the number of projectiles you shoot, as well as increasing the spread of the projectiles and giving you extra health and things. So some of the more exotic loot does all sorts of crazy stuff. But the basic loot seems to fall into the 4 camps, which is totems, orbs, armor, and attack power. So you got a bit of variety there, which is also nice to see. So that's cool. The game does seem to be considerably harder than it used to, and and I think there's only one main reason for that, which is that you've actually got half as much health as you used to have. Which is, I've got 50 health. The game used to give you 100 health when you started out. Now you only have 50. So that does increase difficulty significantly, just because you can only take half as much damage before you die. I'm guessing this is supposed to be counteracted by the fact that there is more diversity and you have more options at your disposal for dealing with enemies. You've got your orbs, you've got your totems. You're supposed to be able to kill things other ways. This is presumably what they had in mind there. But ultimately, I have found it, generally speaking, to be a lot harder than it used to be. I have these weird fans in this room, which are going to try and blow us towards enemies with spikes. I don't recall fans being a thing, they are new. Seems to be a news thing. See if I can get the treasure while that's blowing me towards stuff. Lead breastplate. What does lead do? Let's have a look at that. Decreases speed, naturally, increases maximum health, and equips a chest slot. So I'm going to walk slower, but I've got an extra 10 health, or 10 maximum health at any rate. So if I could pick up some healing items, I could increase that. Where am I heading here? Check the map, I suppose. I think that was just an empty room, wasn't it? Had I been there before? Or was it literally just an empty room? I'm not sure. I suppose there is an argument to be made for the orb. I haven't been using them extensively, but that did probably save me there. It's like, oh, there's enemies, why don't I just blow them all up? where previously I would have tried to fight my way out just by shooting them, I can just, like, there's an emergency button. Oh no, too many things. Boom, everyone's dead. So that's, I suppose that compensates for the fact that you have less health, certainly. There are more situations where you're going to be able to just get out of it just by pressing a button. So that's cool, I suppose. It does make the final boss considerably harder, because you're only going to be able to take... I think you can only take 4 hits from the... not final boss, the first boss, in fact. Final boss of this area. The first boss, yeah, you can take about 4 hits from him before he kills you. It's not good. Although one thing I have not addressed is, I guess I'm sort of assuming people might have watched the older video, but if you hadn't, the unique mechanic of this game is that when you die, that's not the end. There are puzzles to be solved by dying. So when your health hits 0, you'll come back as a little ghost lizard. And there are certain areas that you can only get to by being a ghost lizard. So certain areas will require you to die or forfeit your life or step on a spike or something just to lose your life so that you can come back as a ghost. And as a ghost you can then solve different things. What have we got to buy in here? We have an abacus. We have a book that's too expensive for me, and we have some gloves that are too expensive for me. Let's take the abacus, find out what it does. Displays numbers during combat. Okay, that might be useful to know, I guess. So yeah, when I shoot things now, the number's going to pop up and it's going to say 10, 10, 10. So I suppose that gives you a good hint as to how powerful things are, relatively speaking, but... I don't know, without knowing how much health they have, it almost seems perhaps not the most useful of things. But I suppose it's more useful than not knowing anything at all, so... There's always that. That's cool. Fair enough. So yeah, well, like I say, when you die, you can come back, and then there are also rooms with... Yikes, speaking of death, I might die here. There are rooms with pentagrams, which allow you to resurrect with, I think, 12 health, or... I say 12, that seems like it's a quarter of your health. I guess if your health is higher, it might be a little more. If I've got 60 health, I might resurrect with 15. Seems to be what it might be. I have no orbs to destroy them with, which I would like to have done there. But I can't do that. I suppose I could always throw down a totem, see if that's going to do me any good. Oh, I suppose it killed a guy there. Huh. It's very rare that I've ever seen the totem work well. Either I don't know how to use them, or it's just not very good. So whilst you've got the extra weapon in your arsenal, I don't particularly rate it. So yeah, when you die, you'll, ta-da, come back with 60 health, or 50 health if you haven't upgraded. And all the ghosts will now attack you, and everything becomes 0 brightness. The brightness gets dropped to 0. Although, given that you can turn that off in the living world, it's almost redundant as a feature now. So you can come back and get full health. I can get into new areas, but I suppose the game is technically harder because, as I say, the ghosts will attack me now. I have a blue candle. What on earth does that do? Increases soul power, modifies personal lighting, not lightning. Equipped to light hook. So light hook is basically your light slot. So that's the boss there, clearly. I feel like... Ooh, there's some ghosts. I feel like I might be worth backtracking and picking up some stuff if I can find it. I do not feel adequately equipped to deal with a boss. There's a soul orb. It's not a bad little start. Oh heck, let's do it. Let us dash across this room. No, let's not dash across the room because dash doesn't work very well. The dash is a nice idea, but it doesn't particularly work as well as you might want it to. So, his abilities. He's got a giant mace that he's going to start swinging at everyone. Ow. Wow. We didn't even get to see the boss. Huh. So he's got a mace, he summons a bunch of zombies. Is about the shape of what I was about to explain, but I guess I don't get to do that. But there you go. You get to see about 2 seconds of the first boss. There you go. But this is a Wizard's Lizard, Immortal Edition. As I say, this is out now on Steam. This is £10.99, or your regional equivalent, with a 34% launch discount for the first week, bringing it down to £7.25. This is the same Wizard's Lizard you knew from 6 months ago, but with a whole bunch more content. As I say, there's a lot of nice options in there, as well as more armour, and more weapons, and more things to play with. Same game, but more variety, and who could possibly argue with that? It seems like it's well worth a look in my book. So thank you very much for watching. I have been Meroka, this has been a Wizard's Lizard Immortal Edition, and I shall see you next time.